Major hailstorms hit Kansas over the last week. We had a series of storms just one day after another. Wichita actually got smacked about a week ago by not one, but two hailstorms. And then just a few days later, softball-sized hail was recorded in southern Kansas.
And before we jump into this episode, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. Okay, so for this Kansas storm that happened last week, I mean, this is a September storm. So this is not normal to see a storm in September, but not only one storm, but several storms in a short period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not common. We would expect to see this in an April or May-like series. But I think that if you ask most Kansans or Oklahomans or Texans or Nebraskans, they would say that we often get a second severe weather season this time of the year. So while it's not always common, it's not unheard of. Actually, Collin, the largest hailstone that ever fell in Kansas fell in September.
And that was what, 15 years ago for that hailstone?
Yeah, it fell 15 years ago. So we're actually coming up on the anniversary or the 15-year anniversary of that. It was just a little bit smaller than the largest hailstone ever recorded. So that fell in Vivian, South Dakota. This is a 3D replica of that Vivian, South Dakota hailstone, the largest ever recorded. This is a little over 8 inches in diameter. And then that hailstone in Kansas was a little under 8 inches in diameter. So it was basically this size, just give or take a quarter of an inch.
Just barely missed getting there. And this hail replica, I mean, it's becoming famous on our podcast. I think it's come up at least 2 or 3 times.
Here it is. Yes. we talk about it quite often. Look, if you have a 3D printout of the biggest hailstone ever recorded in the US, you got to show it off. We were joking yesterday that it's becoming like our mascot or something.
Yeah.
So we actually had a storm chaser on that Wichita storm that produced the largest hailstone ever in Kansas. Justin Hughes was down there 15 years ago. He actually went up to Kansas to chase tornadoes, not hail.
We saw that the SPC, I think maybe it was the morning of, they put out just a little bit of like a 5% tornado risk and just a small area in south central Kansas. Along with a significant hail risk. And so we just decided, hey, it's 4 o'clock, takes a couple hours to get up there. Let's go ahead and like we have nothing else going on. Let's go see what we can get. So there was really no planning. It was kind of like a last minute thing. So
again, Collin, he was going for tornadoes, but when the hail started falling, they got stuck and they tried to find shelter.
We found this little country dirt road that kind of weaved under this little pass for like tractors or something. It was like in between farms, but it was like perfect shelter. So we did that, and then the hail just started getting larger and larger. And I'll always remember there's these cows out in this field, and they were just getting pummeled by these hailstones. We all felt really bad for them, but and during all of that, it actually produced for at least a brief time, the largest hailstone ever recorded in the United States.
So the hailstone that he was talking about there is about 7 3/4 inch in diameter. So just a little bit smaller than that one that fell in Vivian, South Dakota, just 2 months prior. So this one still holds the record for the largest hailstone ever in the US, but that one in Kansas holds the record for the second largest in the US. And just for reference, Collin, I know this thing is massive, but this weighs a little over a pound, or at least the one in Wichita weighed about 1.1 pounds. And scientists have gone back and they've researched this storm, and they said that this thing was falling to the ground at a little over 100 miles an hour.
So that fast, I mean, wouldn't it like go through your roof if it were to hit your house?
This is something that Derek likes to call not just going through the roof, but it'll break your coffee table. It'll go all the way through. Now,
for.
No, I don't know if that's insured. Now, We have some pictures of the divots that it actually made in a golf course and on the ground outside people's homes. It's absolutely insane. It looks like just a softball came pummeling in.
Oh, and it's loud. We could hear it. We could hear cars that were like on the highway, just the thuds that it was making, and yeah, it was nuts to see I guess the quantity or of like stones that large. I've never seen that before.
So he goes on to talk about that it wasn't just the massive hail that day and 5 tornadoes that were produced by the supercell, but there was also a ton of lightning. So it's pretty common to see a lot of lightning in hailstorms, but Justin's car actually got struck by lightning and he had no idea.
The hail was hitting so hard and it was like so loud and the wind was blowing through there that we were in my car when it happened. But in the video that I have, or had, I don't know where it is, like we rolled down the window at a perfect time because right in front of us, this big bolt of lightning comes down, and the loudest strike I've ever heard. Like I couldn't hear what my brother was saying. Like it was like our ears were ringing. And then years later, when my first year here at HailTrace, they featured us and a local news did on just, hey, like hail stalkers, and they wanted some B-roll footage. I took them the video, and they pointed out that a little finger came off the big strike and hit my car, and that would explain why like I had electrical issues until I sold that car.
Man, getting struck by lightning and also not knowing that you were struck by lightning until a while later when you're reviewing the footage is wild.
I'm glad they were in their car, not outside of their car. That could have been bad. So Justin saw a lot of big hail that day, but he said he didn't actually see the biggest hailstone recorded. He said that as they got out of their car, the sun was out at that point and it had started melting a little bit.
When we got out, I remember it was sunny, so like melting already occurring. But yeah, I would say the biggest one that I picked up was, probably bigger than my hand. And they were all over the ground. Normally, whenever you see some of those storms, it's like one here, one there, one there. They were everywhere. So it was definitely a high volume storm of massive hail.
And obviously the storm that Justin's talking about that happened 15 years ago in Wichita is different from this Wichita storm that happened just a week ago. But it just kind of shows you that these storms do happen in September. It's not uncommon to see a really big hailstorm in September. We actually got to sit down with HailTrace CEO Derek Collin and talk with him about this Wichita hailstorm, or hailstorms, because there were 2 that went through Wichita a week ago. And he did some radar analysis and we showed some pictures and video. It's a really cool video, so take a look at that. It's a sneak peek. If you want to see the full video, you can head over to our YouTube page and we'll have that video link in the description.
Wichita, McPherson, Park City, and Hayesville, Kansas all got hit with large hail last night. 3-inch size hail, so just slightly larger than the size of a baseball, landed on a good portion of 135 and then I-35 all the way down into Wichita. Over 200,000 structures were impacted in this area. And if we zoom down into Wichita, you can actually see the breakdown of these 2 different storms. But we're going to get to Derek Collin in just a few minutes and talk with him about these storms. I want to show you exactly what happened because these storms blew up. At 4:40 yesterday, we had nothing on the radar. By 4:50, I-70, we started to see a few of those really tall clouds produce rain. And then all of a sudden, by 5 o'clock, baseball-sized hail coming down in Salina. It is now a significant severe thunderstorm warning. In the words of the National Weather Service, it could produce considerable damage. But we didn't stop there. We saw a cluster of storms continue to track down to the south along 135 into McPherson, Kansas. This is whenever we started to say, hang on, this could hit Wichita. And it did. It continued to track down to the south into Newton. We had tons of hail reports of baseball-sized hail, tennis ball-sized hail, golf ball-sized hail, all along this area. And then it continued, of course, the National Weather Service saw this coming into Wichita. We had not 1, but 2 storms here, and you can see them line up perfectly. Here's your first storm coming into the north central side of the city, and here's your second storm that would eventually hit the west side of the city. Now, this is where I want to bring in Derek Collin, CEO of HailTrace. Now, Derek, you have a better radar than I do on your side of the screen, so I want you to break down exactly what our meteorologists see as they map this storm. They really break down this view.
Yeah, Taylor, it's really unique. So we obviously have a radar version that's made for TV, but when you step back behind the scenes and you see what our team of meteorologists are dissecting and what they're taking a look at, in order to provide a more accurate representation of what this storm actually looked like, it's really amazing to see how that's dissected. And so what my goal here today would be is to actually give you inside access into what the team of meteorologists are doing. Okay, so what are they looking at? What are the things that go into them deciding where was their large hail? Where was their high volumes of hail? Maybe the duration of hail was a little bit longer. We're going to help you understand every aspect of both of these hailstorms that move through the Wichita area, and maybe even give you a little bit more insight into where some of that damage occurred from than what you might even be able to tell from one of our hail maps. How about that? So this is going to be really, really special opportunity for contractors that are thinking about working this. If you are a contractor, you're going to want to watch the full length of this video to help you understand exactly what went into making each segment of this storm damaging. So Taylor, you left us off right there with that view, and we're almost looking at the exact same view that you had, but we're going to take it in now and show you just how detailed we can get. So we're going to zoom in and we're going to start with storm number 1, which is right here at Park City, Kansas. And you can see this storm is I mean, it just looks wild, right? If you've done anything on radar, you can kind of tell this looks like a really impactful storm. What we have here is we have lots of inflow coming into this storm here. I love this because I'm going to be able to give you in kind of a write-up here of what this looks like. Now, I've got this broken down into 4 panels. Okay, so our panel 1, which is right here, okay, is going to be our base reflectivity. So that's telling us how heavy the precipitation is that's falling. Okay, is it if it's large objects, it's going to look heavier, right? It's going to look like a lot of raindrops. Or if it's a lot of raindrop, it's going to look like a lot of raindrops. Then we're going to look over here at our correlation coefficient. Obviously, this is going to carry over across all of them. So this is what we call our CCs. And our CCs, what are going to be really important about this, this helps us understand, really in layman's terms, where are the large objects that are in this. So if it was debris from a tornado, it would pick that up. But in this case, we're going to look for this to have large hail. So the lower the CCs, the larger the hail. Then we're going to bounce down here to our differential reflectivity. And what this is going to help us do is it's going to help us focus on what is the predominant precipitation type. Do we have a big mixture, or is it a lot of one type of precipitation or a lot of another? And then our bottom right-hand corner looks really pretty. It's got lots of purples and greens on it. But what this one really is going to help us focus on is what is going on in the storm cloud. Are we seeing some melting with this hail, which could mean that as it gets to the surface, it could be smaller. So that's what we're going to break down. And I'll go through each panel as we move through and really highlight some areas on that. But as this storm moves through. So we're going to track it down to the south and east now. And you can see, so right here, we've got an interstate. See if I can get the roads. Hopefully they pop up. There's 235 is coming up right here. There we go. Is that 254 it looks like. So there's 254 right here, and you can see we've got all the roads. You got your little, Wichita's known for its kind of gridded structure there with one by one, mile by mile grids. If you're from the Wichita area, a lot of this stuff is going to make sense. So I've kind of zoomed us in here, and we still have our inflow notch. So we're going to turn our pin back on, and we're going to kind of start to dissect this. So we still got our inflow notch coming into the storm right here. Now look how messy this looks though, right? You're like, okay, so how do we start to dissect this storm to understand what's going on? Because if I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, right, large hail all over this whole purple area right here that we're going to see, some potential for significant hail. It's telling me that whole area I should be seeing significant hail. So what am I breaking down? What am I understanding? So here are a few things that I want you to be able to take note of. So this again lets me know, this area right here lets me know which areas have more hail and less raindrops. So I'm highlighting this area, and I also highlight this area right in here. So see how we have a more concentration of these gray colors right here? That's telling me that I'm seeing a higher, at least a potential for a higher concentration of hail. Okay. Now we need to look at that in relation to what we're seeing up here in our base reflectivity as well. So just because one shows one thing doesn't mean that the other equals that. Okay. So we have to be very careful because, for example, the lower the correlation coefficient, it would tell me that this area, because I have lots of greens and blues up here, that it should be large hail. But when I come over here to the base reflect,
It's such a great video of kind of seeing Derek walk through what it takes to map one of these storms and all the different pieces that it takes to kind of figure out, okay, where did that hailstorm actually occur? Um, if you utilize HailTrace, right, you just see the map, but there's a lot that goes in behind the scenes of being able to track one of these storms.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that Derek maybe didn't talk about there that's important to note as well, they've got all kinds of different products using dual pole technology that they can analyze and determine how big was the hailstone, how fast did it fall, where did it fall at. But we go back and we scour social media and we look for all kinds of pictures and locations of those pictures, and we find actual ground truth to what we're saying happened. So we use that technology, but then we also go back and use those pictures to prove that that happened. Or maybe, we say it's baseball size hail and we saw softball size hail. We'll go back to the radar and we'll make sure that we're making it as accurate as possible. So I think that was a great analysis that Derek did.
Guys, thanks for watching another episode of the HailChatter podcast. Again, like, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys in another 2 weeks.